झनक झनक झन झंकारितः
अखिल जगति भुलवी आहा
रसिक मनांच्या तारा गीत कहाण्या हित गुजेही
सांगे अभिनव धारा
ही प्रसारण इंटरनेट रेडिओ ही प्रसारण इंटरनेट रेडिओ.
Welcome everyone to the next edition of Language Talks. We have with us a very senior, witty and experienced French language professional, a French expert, Mr. Sunil Ganu. Welcome, Sunil.
Thank you.
He wears many hats. He holds one master's degree in English from Pune, another master's in English from USA, also a master's in French from USA. He has completed DFA2 in commercial French from CCIP Paris. He is a teacher of French, a translator, interpreter, writer, copywriter, and curator of language courses. Join me in the conversation to know his journey. Welcome to the show, Sunil.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for sparing your time to share experience with us. I would like to start by asking, you have been a language professional since many years. I would like to know about the language scene back then and today.
Okay. First of all, although Pune is the Oxford of the East and all that publicity jazz, there were not many avenues open to anybody who wanted to make a career in languages. Back in the day when I used to be young once upon a time, there were only two career options for boys. It was, speaking again for the Pune context, it was Loyola High School, Ferguson College for 2 years, IIT Powai, US.
Okay.
Or Loyola High School, Ferguson College, BJ Medical, US.
Okay.
And so that was the prescribed path until almost it became the only thing to do.
Okay.
And so when I told my father, who was a surgeon, that I wanted to do languages, the good man stopped talking to me and did not speak to me again for the rest of his natural life. This is the inbuilt resistance to anything out of the ordinary that we lived through. But at the same time, when I was in the 8th standard in Loyola High School, my then principal, Father Shock, God rest his soul, invited my mother for a meeting. And he told her that I know that Sunil's father is a surgeon. I know you are a gynecologist. I don't want you to force him into science.
Okay.
I can see the boy is good with languages. So put him into the art stream and he will do well. Put him into science and he will be a miserable failure. Well, Father Shock's prophecy came true because I failed my 12th standard exams in maths. So I redid the exam, etc., etc. To cut a long story short, finally my mother allowed me to take up arts.
Okay.
And in 1982, I graduated from Ferguson College with a degree in English, psychology, and sociology.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I won the gold medal.
Very nice.
So that goes to show, and I hope parents who are listening to this will take heed, allow the child to do what they want. Do not force him into anything. Then subsequently, I decided to go to the United States to do a master's. I applied to 13 places. I was accepted by 9 universities and 7 of those offered me scholarships. those were very lucky days because not too many people from India were going to the US, and in the humanities, even less.
Yes.
At the customary ragging session organized by Indian students at one of the universities I studied in, the people who were in charge of the ragging, who had all come from various IITs everywhere in the country, but were now in the US seeking their master's or PhD, they asked me a question. They said, "You look like someone who can debate."
Oh, okay.
I said, "Yes." They said, "All right, now tell me, how are you serving our country, India, by studying English?"
Okay. Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So I said, "Have you just listened to yourself?" "What do you mean?" I said, "Listen to yourself. Ask me the question again." So they did. And I said, "See, you are speaking to me in English. You are going to remain in the United States, in California or further up Washington State. You are never going back. I am."
Oh.
So 15 years from now, graduates from your institution in India who think they can rag everybody will be ragging people who come from Ferguson College Humanities section and asking the same question in English because I will have taught them that language.
Wow. Great.
I got away with not being beaten up. My other first-year students were not so lucky.
Wonderful.
You are going to have to ask questions a little faster because my reputation in my friend circle is that since I teach for 2 hours at a stretch, once I open my mouth, I don't stop normally for 120 minutes. My friends always ask me questions with a little preface. They say, "Sunil, in 20 words or less,
Okay.
what do you know about blah, blah, blah?"
Okay. So it's like a question paper for you.
Yes, exactly.
Perfect. No problem. I don't mind if you speak a lot. Our viewers are very kind and they would love to, have this knowledge and information.
Thank you.
But thank you. So yeah, my question is half answered. So this language scene was back then. So how is it today?
Today, I think it is very, 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 very different because one, the choices that our young students have in terms of both career and vocation, because I like to make the difference between the two.
Okay.
They are so numerous, right? Today, you can go into hotel management. You can go into hotel finance. You can go into hotel servicing.
Right.
You can go into hotel management, strategic planning. So each little tiny field that is being created is going to be open to our language students.
Correct.
Secondly, as Indians, I believe we are singularly lucky because naturally it is almost as if from the air by osmosis, we pick up languages.
Yes.
And we are able to use them fluently without any problem.
Correct.
I remember when I was a student in Massachusetts way back in the past, my American roommate was shocked to see me on the phone with a cousin in Texas speaking Marathi.
Okay.
But at the same time, if someone in the room asked me a question, I could answer in English. And he would always say, "But how can you function in these two languages together?" I said, "We are naturally smart."
Yes. Yes. Quite so.
Yes.
Great. I'll go to the next question. Sunil, how did you choose English as a subject for your graduation? So why not Sanskrit? Why not Kannada or any other language for that matter?
Well, I think Father Shock gets the credit for that. Because
Okay.
in my 8th standard, as I just mentioned, when he told my mother that he could see that I was good with languages.
Mhm.
In school, I have always done well in English.
Okay.
Always, always, always.
Mhm.
Marathi, we were taught later
Mhm.
from the 7th standard onwards.
Mhm.
Hindi, we were taught at around the same time, but unfortunately, I never really took to Hindi. Marathi, I spoke it at home. I speak it reasonably well even now, but my basic thinking process has been in English all my life.
I see.
Because
Okay.
I was born in Tanzania, where my father was a surgeon.
Okay.
Then at that point, our neighbors were international.
Mhm.
So I grew up listening to French
Mhm.
being spoken by the other doctor who worked with my father,
Okay.
and Gujarati, which was spoken by the other Indian families who were all from Gujarat.
Oh, okay.
Now, the funny thing is, at the age of 4,
Mhm.
I spoke fluent Swahili, I spoke fluent Gujarati, of course Marathi and English.
Wonderful.
And my mother had to rely on me to go to the market to buy vegetables.
Okay.
Because the local people who sold vegetables did not speak English, they spoke only Swahili.
Um,
So
you
my
could-
first interpretation job was for my mother at age 4.
so early in life.
Yes.
Wonderful.
And later on, I got into a lot of trouble because along with my Swahili, I had picked up all the bad words in Swahili.
Of
And
course.
one day in a fight with my father, I happened to tell him what I would do to his mother and his sister in front of everybody. In the worst Swahili curse words that you can imagine, I had heard them from our driver. So about just a few days later, I was packed off to India to stay with my grandmother in Pune, because my father was very scared that if by that time I was 5.5, at 5.5, if this boy is going to talk to me like this, he will probably murder me by the time he turns 18 years old.
Oh, yes.
So I was packed off to the safety of Deccan Gymkhana, Pune, where nothing bad could happen to me.
Okay. Sure. Okay. So after you completed your master's in US,
Yes.
you came back to India.
Well, I came back to India because of our ex-Prime Minister, Rajiv Gandhi.
Mm-hmm.
Rajiv Gandhi came to the US to inaugurate the Festival of India,
Mm-hmm.
and they had 2 inauguration ceremonies, one in New York City and one in Chicago.
Okay. Mhm.
I was present at the inauguration ceremony of the India Festival in Chicago, and in that speech, the Prime Minister said or invited his young Indian brothers and sisters to
Mhm.
finish their educations and come back to India to strengthen his efforts to build up the country.
Oh, okay.
So after hearing that,
Uh,
I decided to come back.
inspired.
Well, that inspiration was entirely the wrong thing to happen to me. Because I came back to India, I went to the University of Pune Foreign Languages Department, and the head of department then told me he could not give me a job because of my last name.
Okay.
The Mandal Commission had arrived,
Yes.
and I was born a Ganu. So the University of Pune has never employed me. They employed me on clock hour basis
Okay. Okay.
for 2 or 3 years, but then I got sick of the clock hour salary, so I just got up and left.
Great. Okay.
So my entire life I have been a freelancer. I have not had a proper job with a
Mhm.
provident fund and etc. etc. No, that is not for language people.
True. You are a teacher of French for
Yes.
all levels and teaching French as a foreign language. So what does that mean? Like teaching any language as a foreign language?
Well, what it means basically is that you start by learning the language as you would any language.
Mhm.
And the French as a foreign language component is mainly to learn the language
Mhm.
without really going into the academic study of literature, poetry, etc.
I see. Okay. So,
And so you can, after you do the FLE courses at the Alliance Française or wherever, you can go to a French-speaking country and survive there without any problems.
I see. Okay.
Now, later, we have another specialization called FOS,
Mhm.
which is French for specific objectives.
Acha. Okay.
Those are niche courses created for various industries.
Mhm.
So you have French for engineering,
Okay.
French for commerce,
Mhm.
French for international trade,
Mhm.
French for hotel management,
Acha. Okay.
etc.
Okay. Okay. So that will teach the students specific vocabulary or
Very,
terminology.
very domain specific, giving you situations from the domain in which you will be working, etc.
Quite useful for the job.
It is very practically
employment.
oriented. So you do
Right.
those courses and you can pick up a job. I have students who did the courses at the Alliance Française and
Mhm.
got very good jobs in France.
Wow. That's nice. It's quite
And
practical.
yes,
Yes.
France, Canada, West Africa, we have students all over the place right now who are doing very well because they used French language as a second line of attack.
Oh, okay.
The first line is a proper subject.
Subject. Okay.
For example, we have one student right now who was working for a French giant
Mhm.
in electronics.
Okay.
They sent him to India as their employee
Okay.
to work on a project for Bombay Metro.
Ah. Oh, okay. Nice.
So here you had a Pune student
Correct.
via France coming back to Bombay, working on the Bombay Metro project. And of course, the best part, as he told me himself, was that he was on a euro salary.
Oh, love this. So this is French as a foreign language. So if you are teaching French as a French first language, how would that be?
Well, French as first language would be sort of what the universities in our country are doing.
Okay.
Where you study French language and literature. They also have courses in linguistics. They have now caught up with the 21st century, and those institutions are now offering specialized courses, which again come close to what we were talking about earlier for like French for hotel management, etc. The university here in Pune has started a subtitling course.
Is it?
A subtitling course is one of the best things they could have done for job-oriented prospects for the students.
Correct. 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 So how would you define subtitling?
Well, subtitling is used for mainly for feature films, informational documentaries, and any other. Now with multimedia, even if you put up a play, you shoot the play, and you can take your Shakuntal, you can take Sangeet Manapman and whatever, and share it with an international audience using subtitles in 3 different languages.
Okay. Okay. So you're translating that language for that feature film or any documentary?
Yes, I have already done about 3 feature films which went for various festivals.
Huh. So that is a different, altogether a different skill
It's
set,
completely, it's a sub-translation sector,
okay,
which also requires high technical knowledge. At least it's a skill which anybody can pick up in a few days.
Okay. Mhm.
because they only give you so much space, 26 spaces.
Okay. Mhm.
And you have to listen to the long-winded paragraphs that our Hindi film people speak.
Mm.
And you have to fit it in a very short time.
How come?
That is your skill as a translator.
Yes. Can you give me
Because
one example?
I will give you an example. In a
Yes.
normal Hindi film from the 1970s and 80s, which is when subtitling in French became very big in India.
Okay.
Normally, at the end of the film, the mother who was dying
Hmm.
spoke for a minimum of 7 minutes before she died,
Yes.
right? You had to take those 7 minutes of speech
Mhm.
and bring them down to maybe 6 or 7 subtitles, each which would stay on for approximately 14 to 15 seconds.
This is really difficult.
It takes a lot of practice, and there is a lot of hit and miss work in that.
Yes. 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 Because the message has to be conveyed, but with different wording,
Yes.
different selection of words, maybe. That's wonderful. Great. Coming back to your teaching, we would like to know your experience as a visiting lecturer. Because you have been visiting lecturer for many reputed institutes.
Yes. Well, like I said, because I did not have a regular job,
Yeah.
I would be for 2 semesters with institution A, then they don't need me anymore, so I go to institution B and so on.
Right.
What happens with this is sometimes it is the only way you can assure yourself of a monthly income over an academic year.
Okay.
First.
Mhm.
Secondly, you need to be flexible to be able to adapt to the particular working conditions in each institution.
Okay.
Third, you need to be flexible and adaptable to any crowd of students.
Exactly. Exactly.
And especially over the last 15 years, when all Indian students all over the country made the transition from being students
Mhm.
to clients,
Okay.
everything changed.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yes. Earlier, we were trained to respect teachers.
Yes.
The respect, unfortunately, today has flown out of the window because we all in the country now believe that we are Swayambhu.
Okay.
We are completely independent to do whatever I want, whenever I want, and no one can stop me, least of all a teacher, because I am paying fees.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, all over the country, it is different manifestations of the Delhi syndrome.
Okay. Mhm.
Do you know what the Delhi syndrome is, Lalita?
I was about to ask you.
Delhi syndrome is, tu janta nahi mera baap kaun hai.
Yes.
So, you have to be careful about that.
Mhm.
You need to use all kinds of tricks to make sure that the students are going to sit in one place and listen to you for the duration of your class.
Okay. Mhm.
So I usually use humor.
Okay. Yes.
Keep it light, keep it simple. I love to talk, as you have seen. So I can keep talking and I can keep talking and I can keep talking and the 2 hours go by.
Yes.
Second,
Hmm.
I use hardcore Puneri sarcasm.
Okay.
I speak 3 languages. I can be hardcore Puneri sarcastic in all 3, depending on the situation. That usually shuts students up.
Mm.
I'll give you one example.
Yes, please.
I was teaching communication studies
Mhm.
in a college.
Okay.
here in Pune.
Hmm.
And the students who came to that college came from all over the country. All of them had studied in the English medium.
Mhm.
And so the first day of class, they came to class with the attitude, I have spoken English all my life. What are they going to teach me now?
Mhm.
So there was this heavy resentment in the class when I walked in at 9 in the morning.
Hmm.
I sensed the resentment with the simple question of, please tell me what your name is, where you come from, and what made you choose this particular course.
Mhm.
The way people responded, I knew that they were not very interested in my class, and I knew I would have attendance problems and all other problems that follow in terms of performance, etc.
Correct.
So I was scared, of course, for my job for next semester.
Mhm.
So then I said, all right, I can see that all of you have spoken English all your lives. I am going to give you a small oral speaking test.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
I chose the one boy who had just told me he came from Delhi and who was symbolizing the "Tu janta nahi mera baap kaun hai" attitude.
Okay.
Ha.
Mhm.
So I picked him
Mhm.
and I said, right, you have no preparation time. You will speak for 3 minutes.
Mhm.
I will give you the topic now.
Mhm.
The importance of sex education for young children.
Ah.
He started and came to a complete stop in 17 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I
We
said,
know
do
the
you,
results.
do you have anything to add? He said, no, sir. I said, if I were in your position, I would be very careful because you only lasted 17 seconds in a discussion about sex. He did not come back to my class for 1 semester.
Oh,
The class was quiet.
very effective method, I would say. Wonderful.
Now, there are other incidents which unfortunately I cannot tell you right now in this formal interview situation, but I will write a book when I retire and then you can read all about it.
Yes, I don't know when you will retire, but all the best.
Thank you.
Then I will go to some technical questions now.
Yes.
So about technical writing. So we have heard a lot about it. So what is it exactly and what is taught in that course?
Okay, technical writing is what it says, writing technically, right?
Okay.
So, for example, a few years ago, when people in advertising agencies
Mhm.
were asked to make brochures, leaflets, flyers
Yes.
for the heavy industry around Pune.
Yes.
So then you have typically a small scale industry
Mhm.
who needs their publicity material to
Mhm.
be attractive
Mhm.
yet be technically sound,
Correct. Yes.
right?
Yes.
So then technical writing is nothing but playing with the English language,
Mhm.
making sure that everything you write is technically 100% correct.
Oh.
So normally it would mean sitting with the technical people from the client side.
Mhm.
And they explain their process, they explain the theory behind their process, etc. to you. You take your notes, you ask your questions, and trust me, I have done this for so many years. You do not need to be a technically qualified person to write this. You just need good English.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
But suppose
Because once you submit your first draft, they are going to check it anyway.
Yes.
So then if you have made a mistake in terminology, in units, or in my case, I often did this, putting the decimal point in the wrong place.
Yes.
They would check it and then just correct it, and that's it.
That's it. Okay.
It gets easier as you go along because you start to come to know how things function in a certain industry.
Correct.
I was very lucky because my writing career on the technical side started as a script writer for documentary films on video.
Okay. So that is a totally different thing.
Yes, it is a totally different yet allied field because, for example, if you're doing a company profile on video, those were the rage in the 1990s and 2000s. Because we were still with the old VHS format of video cassettes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
In those days, every company wanted to make their own profile on video. I have written approximately 100 such profiles in my life.
Fantastic.
So, of course, if you look at the industrial area around Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, and then the one that came up later,
Yes.
I can just point to the list and say, yes, I have written for them. And I was lucky I got to write about 8 different video projects for large industries.
Oh, okay.
I wrote 2 for Tata Motors.
Okay.
So really the big ones in and around Pune I worked with.
Great.
It was just
Really
a
nice.
case
Yes.
of getting down there, doing the work and giving them top quality work so that they came back to you and they spoke to their friends about you.
Correct. So then how it is, you have written scripts. So is it called creative writing or creative writing is something
No,
else?
creative writing is something completely different, which I do in my spare time.
Okay. Which is?
Which is 2 in the morning. But creative writing is basically when you write about ideas that are your own entirely. When you feel what was called feelings of feeling passionately about something and then the feelings just bubble up and you are forced to write.
Oh.
That is creative writing.
So what do you write?
I write in 3 formats. My first format and the most difficult to work with is I write microfiction.
Okay.
Where I say my story will be a complete story with only 55 words.
Is it? Okay.
So that is called #55. I have another format, #275.
Oh.
Where the stories are slightly longer and you get a little space to wiggle around. And then because I work with translation, what I started, I have a total of, I think, approximately 150 #55s written.
Okay.
And maybe 25, 30 #275 written. They were all in English.
Okay.
So I started putting them into French.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And I have a student, ex-student who now runs successfully his own language institution, Sumit Vavre. We are doing a translation project where we want to publish a trilingual book.
Nice.
Where the original, in whatever language it was written, will be on the right-hand page.
Okay.
The left-hand side will be translations in the other 2 languages. We have chosen our 3 languages, French, English, Marathi.
Marathi. Okay. Perfect.
So if my writing, which is mainly in English, is on the right-hand page, then Sumit will translate it into French and I will translate my English into Marathi and all 3 will appear like that.
Wow. This is huge.
So we have been told that for such kind of a project to be attractive to publications, we need to have at least 150 such combinations ready.
So these are how many words?
Oh, these are 55 words each.
All microfiction.
Yes,
Wow.
because people these days don't read anything longer than 55 words.
That's true. All the best for your project.
Thank you.
Sumit also. Great. So like we were talking about translation. So you are teaching the course translation, French, English.
Yes.
It is jointly held by Alliance
English,
Process.
French, English. Yes.
Acha, both ways. Okay. And it is jointly held by Alliance Process and BITS Translation Agency.
Yes. That was one of the collaborations which started up a few years ago and which is running very successfully.
Mhm.
So we run that class at the Alliance, where
Okay.
an Alliance teacher is put in charge of the language portion of the translation,
Okay.
and people from BITS come
Mhm.
in to talk about the business side of the translation profession.
Okay. That is so important.
So they take care of from, for example, formatting
Okay.
and prospecting for clients, the client-customer relationship, sorry, the client and translator relationship, importance of deadlines, and all that part of the business is taught by the BIT staff, and we take care of first sweeping out all the dust and debris from the language
Okay.
of the students.
Okay.
And then what I like to do is I like to work domain-wise.
Okay.
So I say, okay, for the next 2 weeks, we are going to work with engineering documents, then banking documents,
Okay.
and take them through that.
Yes. So it is more focused then.
It is not focused on one industry. We want to give them a broad-based thing, because
True,
when they
true,
go
yes.
out today as freelancers, we would like them to eventually settle down on 1 or 2 domains that they will concentrate on, but that comes about 5, 6, 7 years after they begin.
Yes.
Here we are at a stage where they have completed maybe a C1 or a C2 in French, and they want to do something with their French. So they start in translation. So for those students, we say, okay, you start with a broader base. As you go along, your personal skills, your personal tastes will reflect in what domain you choose to really specialize in.
Correct. Yes, but they already have an idea of all the domains, so they can
Exactly.
choose later. Perfect. Now tell me, what is an advertising copy?
Advertising copy, in the simplest definition, is the text that you have in an advertisement plus the headline, and if all the text that you see in an advertisement is advertising copy.
Yes, but that is very difficult to create, right?
It requires a lot of inputs from the client. It requires a lot of creative thinking on the part of the agency team.
I see. Okay.
They come up with a concept and they say, okay, this is what we want to present. This is how we want to present it. And then the copywriter sits down to write.
Okay.
Then all of that is shown to the client. And unfortunately, the client who writes the checks gets the final decision. Which is something I have always battled against, which is why my career in advertising copywriting lasted only about 17 years.
Only 17 years.
Yeah.
I like it. Yes.
Yeah, because my point was, when you go to the doctor, do you tell him, give me blue tablets only?
Correct.
So every client, especially in a city like Pune, has their own, what I love to call, their own Pittu Maushi. Who is Pittu Maushi? Pittu Maushi is a housewife today
Okay.
who studied English when she was in college, but she gave up college in her FYBA to marry the man who made her Pittu Maushi.
Okay.
So now you tell me, what is her qualification in English? Oh, she speaks very good English. So the advertising copywriter does his best to write copy. The client will take his professionally written copy
Mhm.
to Pittu Maushi,
Oh, okay.
who, as she is giving Podni to Pohe, will read it and say, Atla he badla and tatla te badla. Change this, change that. Pittu Maushi has spoken. So you change it.
Yes. Understand.
I have fought all my life against such totally unfair practices, whether they are in language, whether they are in translation, whether they are in anything. I will give you one more example without telling you the name of the rather large company where this happened. So we had been contacted by this very large
Mhm.
company. We were told they had 40 lakh words to be translated from French to English.
Okay.
So I went
Hmm.
and I met the manager of the division that had this particular project going on.
Mhm.
So they asked me for a quote. I gave them the quote that we had decided at the Alliance office. Okay. So he said, no, this is too high. I said, well, all right then. He said, no, what do you mean all right? You're supposed to negotiate. I said, sir, I am sorry, I will not negotiate because I believe that what price we are offering you is a very fair price. Then he told me the name of a competing agency and said, ha, they are giving it to me with so much per word. I said, well, then it's your final decision. You choose who you want to go with.
True.
He said, yes, I think I will have to do that. I said, wait a minute. I will match the offer that the other agency has given you.
Okay.
If you will give me 4 of your newest products, which was a car, at 10 paise per kilo weighted.
Yes.
Earlier in the conversation, he had said, I don't believe that your translation is worth so much. So I told him, I said, I want your new car that you want to produce. I will buy it at 10 paise per kilo. And I will buy 10. So he said, do you know what goes into making a car? I said, sir, just as much as you don't seem to have any idea of what goes into doing a translation. So we are even. Gaadi deo, translation leo.
Fantastic. Great. Okay. Now you have presented a lot of scholarly articles on various topics on various national and international platforms.
Yes.
So can you tell us about them? Like, what are the articles about and how do you go about them?
Well, basically the whole article writing thing comes from the academic environment in which I was trained in the United States and in France.
Okay.
What happens is there is a constant need for research to be going on in all our fields, including literature. As amazing as it may sound, there is still research to be done on all your old poets, writers, playwrights, etc. And that research is going on and is very alive and well all over the world. A scholarly article is written and presented at a conference where you have specialists coming together to share their views, new discoveries, etc.
Okay.
about whatever they are studying.
Yes.
So in the US, we were trained to write scholarly papers,
Mhm.
and we were encouraged to take part in conferences from our first year of MA.
Okay.
Right? So I ended up writing 2 papers in my English MA, 2 papers in my French MA, and
Oh.
all 4 were selected to be read at professional conferences,
Nice. Wow.
which was really a very, very big thing for me at that point because I was
Yes.
just a young student.
Yes. A huge platform, actually.
Yes, totally huge platform.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, what goes into writing that is a
Mhm.
lot of very, very hard work
Mhm. Okay.
because you have to read like mad.
Mhm. Correct.
I'll give you an example. Let's take from Marathi.
Hmm.
Let's take today adaptations of Pula Deshpande's works in cinema.
Okay.
This can even be a PhD topic,
Yes. Yes.
right? So
Certainly.
then you are going to have to read everything the man wrote, which was
Yes.
ever translated into film.
Ah.
You have to study the films and look at them from the filmmaking angle.
Hmm.
You have to look at his writing from the literature point of view.
Right.
And then you have to start explaining how easy or difficult was it to take a book by P.L. Deshpande and turn it into a film.
Film. Yes.
That becomes your part,
Mhm.
where you show how they must have done from this to that.
To that. Okay. That is the premise. Right. Great. Then you have been a coordinator for many institutes in India and abroad. So what was that? What was that role?
My first ever coordinator role was at an international conference at the University of Cincinnati
Mhm.
in 1995 and 6.
Okay.
The University of Cincinnati every year organizes a conference for Romance languages. Romance languages are the 4:
Okay.
French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese.
Okay.
These 4 are called Romance languages because they came from the vulgar Roman language. This romance is not Romeo-Juliet romance. It is just a geographical term in terms of where the languages came from. So the Cincinnati Conference of Romance Languages and Literatures was well known. And first year MA students helped the second year MA and PhD students to organize the conference. So my first coordinator role came there when I was chosen to coordinate the French section. So for that, we received 75 academic papers from all over the world. We were not part of the committee that chose the papers because we were just students. But we organized the panels that chose the papers.
Okay.
Now, in those days, there was no email.
Yes.
So we had to physically mail copies of every paper to every panelist. Then we had to call them to say, did you get the paper? Will you give us an answer in 2 weeks' time? Then you had to call them again and again and again and again. We did all of that. And luckily, our year, the conference went off without a hitch. And everyone who came there were happy with, because you also have to look after the hotel, the banquet, the menus for the banquet. You have to stand firm and tell the hotel staff, bar band karo. Because when academics get together and there are free drinks, they just love to drink till 3 in the morning.
Great, thank you. Then you have also been in a role of an interpreter. So,
Oh, yes.
so that means leaving your comfort zone, right?
Now I think I just have a very large comfort zone. That's all. Because I can speak the language, translate into and from the language, I can write in the language, and now there's interpretation. So why not? As I said, at 4 years old, I was translating from Swahili to Marathi and Marathi to Swahili.
Goes back to your childhood days.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Yes, yes.
And then interpretation, I find, is I am what I like to call an instinctive interpreter. Instinctively, it just comes to me. So if we are in an interpretation situation and there is a third person here, Lalita, you speak to me in English and that person does not speak English but only speaks Marathi. I start hearing your voice in Marathi when you are speaking in English.
Oh, okay. My God.
So then it is only a matter of telling him what I heard.
Yes, yes.
Similarly, look at a page that I need to translate. I read the page twice. There is a little voice in my head that starts telling me what to type on the page to translate it.
That is huge.
It is such a help.
Yes, because so many years of sincere practice and passion has gone into it.
Okay, but then again, no, for the translation also, I must point out that some very, very lucky incidents happened to me in my life. For example, when I was just an SYBA student at Ferguson College,
okay,
1979-80.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
At that time, because I was also a beginner in French at that point, but I was able to help two translators who were working on a collection of Ovia.
Okay.
Collected by Hema Rairikar. Unfortunately, she passed away.
Okay.
And her husband.
Okay.
Guy had translated them into French, the Ovia, and we were helping him.
Oh, nice.
It was all written in longhand on foolscap paper, right? And in those days, we had French version to the left, Marathi to the right.
Okay.
And we did the whole manuscript and the whole thing was packed off to Paris where it was published.
Fantastic.
Secondly, also for the language part in French, Mrs. Nirmala Purandare used to organize visits by French people to Pune. I have served as their interpreter since I was again in college.
Okay.
When they went around Pune, I would be with them to explain when did they build Mandai, and is there really a ghost in Shaniwarwada? And questions like this: how could Gandhi afford such a big house? The Aga Khan Palace.
Aga Khan, yes.
It was not his home. He was in prison.
Yes.
Things like that.
Good. Now, I want to ask you, you have been doing writings for various, genres like advertising, copy. It could be script for videos or translations, corporate films. So how do you teach yourself this variety of genres?
It comes basically from a lot of reading. I read a tremendous lot, although I have slowed down in the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
But I read anything and everything.
Okay.
Give you one example. My cousin who lived in Aden in Yemen
Okay.
had brought back to India tins of all kinds of food. And he left those tins with us at home while I was growing up.
Okay.
So there were these Nestle tins for powdered milk, which his kids had drunk over the years.
Okay.
They had the same paragraph in English and French and Arabic and Spanish.
Okay.
At home, I would be sitting at the table like this,
Mm-hmm.
reading those same 4 passages over and over every day for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years.
Oh.
My breakfast would be getting cold, my lunch would be getting cold. My mother would come and hit me on the head like this to say, shut up and eat now, don't read that.
Yes.
So the reading, if it is printed, I want to read it.
Okay. Okay.
And if it is in a language I understand, I will definitely read it.
Definitely. Yes. Yes.
So that's
So much-
basically how you teach yourself. You just get interested in different things and
Okay. Okay. Great. Now, coming to the last part of the interview, what is that one thing you would like to change in the language industry?
I would like there to be some kind of mechanism for quality control.
Agree. Yeah.
Because unfortunately, I mean, we are unregulated, of course, but we need to have some regulation, even if it is self-regulation.
Yes.
As I mentioned earlier, because we are all Swayambhu and self-accomplished and more accomplished than anybody else, we think we can translate, we think we can write copy, we think, but you can't, you're not trained to do that.
Correct. But don't you think with the advent of these new social media platforms and with the new technology, which is really handy and anybody can, pick up the pen, I mean, not figuratively speaking, pick up the pen and start writing.
Yes, but
So-
you can write a blog, you can put it up and you can get likes and so on and so forth. But who is checking the quality of the content is my
Exactly.
question,
Exactly.
right? All
Yes.
your sites, they will put it up, but they don't know how to correct what you're doing.
Correct.
And they will not. It's not their
It's not
business
their
to do
job.
that. Yeah.
Yes. Correct.
So
Totally
I
agree.
think that self-awareness of one's own limitations needs to be a little higher than young people today are prepared to show.
Yes.
We have students who are doing A2 teaching A1. They get into B1, they start teaching A1 and A2,
Yes.
which is wrong.
Yes.
You cannot do it.
Like they say, there should also be some customer awareness. Whoever is learning languages
Customer
should also
awareness,
be aware who is teaching.
customer awareness, unfortunately, goes out of the window when it comes to price.
So now we would like to know what are your future plans?
Let's see. I would eventually like to stop teaching.
Okay.
One day, I don't know when. I
Mhm.
can afford to stop teaching, but I shall stop teaching at one point. And then I would like to sit and write
Okay.
maybe a book, maybe just articles.
Mhm.
I don't know. My friends tell me that I will become insufferable and absolutely a big pain to live with if I have nothing to do.
Agree with them.
But in April this year, April of 2020, I suffered from COVID
Okay.
and I spent May and June doing practically nothing. I was so miserable. And anybody who called me to find out how I was, I made them equally miserable.
Yes.
by complaining about everything.
Yes.
I became a real true Puneri in those 2 months. Not that I ever was anything else, but and so they told me to please go back to work.
Yes.
It will keep you busy.
Yes.
It will keep you occupied. It will keep you thinking about different things.
Mhm. Yes, and I think a creative person should always remain creative.
There comes a time, I don't know, I am slowly getting to the point where I say, what is the point of it all?
Then we will meet over coffee and discuss. Definitely.
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. A long session over coffee is called
Yes.
for.
Yes. Then you will get the answers probably.
Yes, as soon as you come back to Pune, we shall organize that.
Certainly. Certainly. It was a wonderful conversation, Sunil.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for all the information and also sharing your journey.
All right. Thank you.
That
I hope
was
it's of use
wonderful.
to someone.
Yes, definitely. It was indeed very nice. So thank you very much again.
You're welcome.
And bye-bye.
Thank you.
झनक झनक झन झंकारितः
अखिल जगती भुलवी आहा हा
रसिक मनांच्या तारा गीत कहाणी